After merrily sailing all the way around Scotland and North Yorkshire with no problem at all, Elly has become unreliable. I'm really struggling to get her starting at the moment, so I'm going to whip the spark plugs out and have a look. I know the battery isn't very healthy, but even when I connect the battery jump pack up, starter spins more quickly, but she's still not firing. So let's have a look at the plugs. Well, that one was a bit loose actually. That's not great. I mean, it wasn't finger tight, but it didn't require the most effort to undo. That's probably because these aluminium heads are so easy to damage that I get a bit wary of doing them too tight. Well, it's not wet, and it doesn't show signs of running too rich, which was a concern because I know some people are very concerned about the jetting on these Burton kits. Yeah, it smells a bit of petrol, but then it would do because it's been churning and not firing. The mystery continues. Well, this really isn't good. I've got the Favorite now trying to provide volts, but still no interest in starting. She's just churning and churning. And there's a part of me wondering if the problem is the electronic ignition I've fitted. 123 unit. Generally reliable, everyone tells me, but I've had a 123 fail on a 2CV. It blew Elly's exhaust crossbox to pieces. That was a fun drive home. And this isn't the first time I've had a problem where they just won't start. I'm now having to contemplate changing the ignition system because I'm due to drive to Derbyshire on Wednesday. Today's Monday. This isn't quite how today was meant to pan out. Not very impressed. But yeah, she's just not firing at all. Quite upsetting. So, minimal choke, because she will need some or she just won't start. Oh! Ooh, that's an exhaust full of fuel. Incidentally, that backfire from the exhaust there is exactly what happened when she blew the crossbox apart. Yeah, this is all very familiar. I'm taking that unit off again. But first I need to get it to run so I can get it down to the garage. Yeah, we had this issue about 10 years ago. I hopefully she'll keep running long enough to get the jump leads off. Thank you, Skoda. Discovered that if you route the throttle cable in a certain way, you can hold a few revs on. So now I've finally managed to coax Elly into the garage. I'm going to replace the 123 unit. I'm going to go back to this points assisted setup. It's slightly melted where it fell on the exhaust once, but it does nonetheless seem to work. So I'm going to refit that and carry out an oil change as well, because she's done quite a lot of miles on her new pistons and barrels. She's had one oil change. She had one oil change after just a few hundred miles, which felt wasteful. I don't like using oil for such a short amount of time, But now she's 1,000 miles on from that, we're going to give her another one. So as I mentioned, Elly did have issues with a 123 ignition unit before, and she'd become very hard to start, especially first thing in the morning, and not just first thing in the morning, in fact, because I was visiting the Vauxhall Heritage Centre in Luton, and I can't remember which cars I was driving, but I bet the Chevette was amongst them, because I love that Chevette. I've got a video on it somewhere in the video list, and yeah, I returned to my 2CV, and she just would not start, cranking over and over and over, and then there was just this almighty bang. It was like a bomb going off, and we heard outside the pop of exhaust igniting in the fuel system. Sorry, pop of fuel igniting in the exhaust. I don't know what I just said, but it was wrong. And that's what happens. You get the fumes, the engine sparks with a valve open, which sounds impossible, but nonetheless it seems to happen. Maybe it's throwing the ignition timing out wildly, and that's what's going wrong. But nonetheless, it blew the exhaust crossbox. That's the pipe that goes across the car, which both cylinders feed into, and along the seam it just blew it apart completely. It was catastrophic, and the problem was I lived about 70 miles from Luton at the time, so I then had to drive home with an exhaust system that was just ripped apart. I mean, a sensible person would probably have called for breakdown assistance, but that seemed a bit wussy, if I'm entirely honest. I mean, the car still drove, so I just drove home very, very noisily, and eventually my hearing recovered. Right, we need, not that ratchet, that's the big ratchet. We need the little ratchet. Where's that gone? The new tidy regime didn't last long, and now I'm already losing tools. Now I can see my extension. Let's put that back in there. I need the 11mm. Aha! I'm sitting on the ratchet. There's one thing I'm envious of, it's people who have ramps that are not having to crawl around on the floor. Which is why we're going to see my friend Jonathan in a couple of days, where we're going to tackle rear brake pipe replacement, which I've never done before. I thought, I'll just get my friend Jonathan to do it. But he's really busy, so he said he's going to carry on working on the projects he's got, and he'll talk me through it. What could possibly go wrong? Right, so here we go. The 123 unit is becoming ready to remove. Right, I shall get that out. It's going to involve snipping wires and stuff. Okay, the next challenge is, what did I do with the old ignition bits? It's a good job I haven't had to tidy up in my garage and moved absolutely everything. Bugger. By Jove, I think I've found it. Ooh, bright light behind me. So yeah, there's one of the centrifugal weights, and that's the backing plate that goes over said weights. We've got the points box, we've got the thing that goes on the shaft, and hopefully somewhere in here is a circlip. Oh yeah, I can see the circlip. Brilliant. So we've got everything we need. So we shall do some reassemblage, like what that James May does on the telly. James Mann is someone entirely different. Stage one is to refit the weights, I think. Oh no, we've got to take these off. These are the magnets that activate the 123 unit, so I can go over there with the 123 unit. So stage one, I need to get that bit, and I need to encourage the springs onto each end and then attach them to the shafts in there. So centrifugal force builds up, it pulls these weights outwards, which alternates or adjusts the ignition timing. Very simple but very effective. So that one goes on there, that one goes on there, and the shaft goes home. And the centrifugal force appears, that should open up. That's not behaving at all well. I think I've got that upside down. Yeah, I have. Close but no cigar. It's the joyous thing about working on cars yourself, you can spend your whole life getting things wrong. There we go, and now that should open up. Yeah, there we go. So that is doing its thing, and we've got a tiny little circlip in here. It's really difficult to pick up, even with these excellent grippers gloves. There you go, tiny little circlip goes on the end of the shaft. Yes, we get to use the word shaft. Titter. There we go. The first time I fitted 1, 2, 3, I didn't realise that was there, and I was tugging these weights and going, why won't they come off? But that's because I don't read instructions. So that's back on. I think the next stage is to refit the backing plate, which covers those up. And it goes the other way up because the points box goes at the bottom. That fits in there like so. Make a satisfying pop noise as it goes home. And then we got the points itself, or points box itself. It's got tiny screws in it to hold the cover on. They're in entirely the wrong place now. Out you come. Incidentally, the ignition system I use does away with the condenser. That's just there for simplicity, because the only way to fit a condenser is to take the points box off. If my new transistorized, it's ancient, transistorized ignition failed and I felt the need to go back to points, it's just a simple wiring job. I just have to wire that to something. Having said that, I have a feeling that wires to that screw, so I might not have saved myself any time at all. There. It sounded good at the time, but points look okay. Try a bit of grease on that cam, but yeah, let's get those back in. Should fit in there. There we go. Right, where are my square washers? Square washers on a 7mm bolt with an 11mm head, because French. You soon learn on a 2CV that the 11mm socket is your friend more often than not. So it isn't so much the 10mm on these. There's a few 10mm, but mostly it's 11s. Right, and I've got wiring to re-establish now, and I think that's going to be really boring for you. So I shall sort the wiring out, possibly after lunch. Right, now we can set the ignition timing. I shall start by inserting the fan bolt so I can turn the engine. Oh wow, I put my 14mm socket away, that's unusual. Now I'm already a bit perturbed because I think I should have power at this point. I don't seem to have power. Power. Nowhere to be seen, of course. Don't ask how long this has taken. Oh, time for a test. My day isn't getting any better then. Just isn't feeling like my day today. I'm not getting spark at the plugs. I'm getting a correct response at the points. So somewhere between plugs and points, I'm losing power. I just tried a different coil. That hasn't helped in the slightest. I'm now trying a Boyer-Branson points assisted ignition kit that I have. Oh, that's interesting. Now my timing light is staying on, even though it shouldn't at that point. There we go. There's still got some muck on the points there. Maybe I should have tried a fresh set of points, but I don't think I have a fresh set of points. Let's see what happens this time. All that's happening is I'm running out of battery power. Not so much as the proverbial sausage. Disconnect the jump pack again. Well, that'll keep clicking away annoyingly. Try and work out what the hell is going on here. Just turn it until those points are shut. There we go. My timing light is working fine. The points are working fine. We've got some breakdown between the points and the spark plugs. It's getting no life at all. Oh, I'm feeling a bit defeated at this point. Oh, some days I don't like cars. This is one of those days. I've got my spark plug tester on. I can see we've got absolutely nothing going on, despite the fact the points seem to be operating correctly. I've isolated the coil. The only thing I haven't done is HT leads, but I can't believe the HT leads would be giving that much grief. You know, an HT lead will break down over time, so you get a misfire. You don't get a complete non-fire. Right, I've just eliminated the Boyer-Branson unit completely, so this is just on points. Still absolutely nothing. This is all the more annoying because I saw a hint of life out of the Sparkrite tool in there as I sort of connected everything up. But see, there's just a glimmer of a spark. Well, let's go back to the original coil because we've I don't think this is the best coil in the world. I've never had this in all my years of 2CVing. Yeah, it's just really weak spark getting through. I've got no more HT leads, so I can't even eliminate those from our inquiries. I really am a bit stuffed at this point. Well, there's a severe danger. I've completely jumped to a conclusion here, but let me try and get you in. I'll try and give you a view where you can see the oh, don't leave oil on the floor. I should just kick the oil tray. It's really a good day, but hopefully you can see that's quite a snap at the spark plug now, so we'll give another try. Noise warning, give us some extra volts. So yeah, Oops, wobbly new tripod. It looks like I've spent, oh, no watch. I'll have to guess at the time, but it feels like I've spent all day with a really crap tripod. Really must stop buying cheap rubbish on eBay. Yeah, there's no adjustment to control that. Wonderful. Well, maybe that'll do it. Ah, now we're talking. Yay! So yeah, I've managed to spend an entire day trying to fix poor running on this car by changing the ignition systems when all I had to do was change the spark plugs. That's not one to be proud of, but sometimes days like these happen where the brain just fails to engage. I mean, the old plugs don't seem too bad, I don't think, but they are perhaps a bit sooty. They're quite brown on the tip, as you can see, but quite black on the base. So maybe that confirms that she is running a bit rich. I mean, to be honest, there are other subtle clues that she might be running too rich. This exhaust tailpipe seems, yeah, that is very sooty. So, oh gosh, yes. So, yeah, I think some jet work is going to be required because that ain't right. And if she's fouling up plugs that quickly, that's not a great sign. So we'll see how long these ones last. She's got 210,470 miles on the clock, so we'll do another couple of thousand miles and see what they look like. But now she's running on points with a condenser. I don't like that, so I'm going to fit at least one of my many ignition systems and just think, what an idiot. And there we go, I've got it running again on the 123 ignition. Not 123 ignition at fault at all, just my own stupidity. I'm going to go for a test drive in the dark just to make sure all is well, because the next drive is to Derbyshire. So yeah, bit of epic face palming action there with Elly the 2CV. We went for a test drive, she was fine, all is good. So she's got fresh oil ahead of the trip, she got fresh spark plugs that she should have had in the first place, and yeah, just another standard day in the world of Hubnut. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe before you go if you would like to see more videos of a fairly incompetent man playing with old cars, and I shall see you, oh, don't forget to visit the Hubnut store, and I shall see you in a future video. Farewell.